Practicing this short Tai Chi sequence will train you how to take a proper step and also how to stand with proper posture. Common movement mistakes can create misalignments and pain in our spine and our other joints. By learning proper movement patterns, we can improve our alignment, reduce impact on our joints, and reduce the risk of pain. In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you the transition between the Tai Chi movement of brush knee and the Tai Chi movement of play the fiddle. And we're going to use this transition to better understand what's going on in the core. And then we're going to directly translate those core movements into our normal walking technique and standing posture. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dr. Todd Martin, creator of both the Tai Chi Code and the Walking Code. In the Tai Chi Code and the Walking Code, I'm teaching how to understand specific core movements that create the final outcome of movement that we are looking for. And by understanding the specifics of the core movement, we can then directly translate the movements of Tai Chi into our movements of daily life, like walking and standing posture. While Tai Chi is a great way to train movement patterns, doing the translation between those Tai Chi movements and our daily activities is something that takes intentional practice, something that's often lacking in most Tai Chi practitioners because it's not explicitly taught. Let's begin practicing the sequence of movements. And then after we've gone through each of those and you've been able to practice it, I'm going to come back and talk about the core movements so you can understand what the core is doing and how those specific muscle actions are creating the walking technique, creating the proper standing posture, and how those movements also create what we have just seen in the Tai Chi sequence. We're going to begin at the end of brush knee left. You are pushing forward with the right palm, pushing back against the ground with the glutes of the right hip. So you're pushing forward, tucking your pelvis on the right, so your pelvis is in a neutral position. Don't let your pelvis tilt forward like this. Keep it nice and neutral, vertical posture with a push with the right hand. The left hand should be passively down by the left knee, which is why it's called brush knee. Now we're going to transition from brush knee into a half step, bringing the right foot in halfway, and then we're going to shift our weight back onto the right foot, shift back into empty stance where the left leg is free, and then we're going to place the left heel on the ground in play the fiddle. From the end of play the fiddle, I want you to stand directly up on your left leg without pushing off from the rear leg. We're simply going to rise up and forward and feel that standing posture once you get there. For exercise number 2, we're going to begin in the brush knee position, and we're going to begin that half step in the same way, but we're not going to shift the weight back. From this position, we're going to lift ourselves into a walking step. And I want you to try to lift in a controlled fashion, no leaning forward, no momentum. We're using all of the muscles on the left side of the core to essentially stand up. But from this half step position, that standing up process is going to take us into the swing through of a normal step, as if we were doing it on level ground. If you do that properly, it's going to train your core in how to take a step in the right way. Many people step incorrectly and stand with poor posture, with their feet turned out in what we call duck feet position, and their palms turned back, which is what will always occur when people are standing with duck feet or walking with duck feet. When we do this transition from play the fiddle, what we are doing is training our body to step forward in line with where the foot is facing. So facing the camera here, we have our foot facing forward. We're going to take that half step, and then now by using the core on the left side, we're pulling ourselves into the swing through of a step, facing in the same direction the foot is facing, rather than having the foot facing out. Duck feet walking and posture is a very common cause of pain, shoulder tendonitis, hip pain, knee arthritis, and especially plantar fasciitis, because the arch of the foot collapses as we roll over it with duck feet, stretching and tightening the plantar fascia, which supports our arch in the foot, and that causes tension and stress on the heel bone, leading to inflammation that causes plantar fasciitis, the most common foot problem that people get, leading to pain. If we can just train ourselves to move in line with the standing foot, we can alleviate a lot of these issues. Let's do the movements facing forward towards the camera now. From brush knee, we're going to half step up, and we're going to shift back and do play the fiddle. If you're a Tai Chi practitioner, you probably are already familiar with this transition because it is learned early on in the Tai Chi Yang Style 24 form. Now we're going to do the half step, but instead of shifting back, we're going to lift ourselves into the swing through. And you should notice that your swing leg goes forward, but the heel doesn't crash into the ground. We only bring the heel down by then rotating the core again to begin the next step. Learning that transition is going to go a long way towards reducing impact on your joints and improving your alignment. Now, from the brush knee position, what we're going to do is stand straight up. Make sure we have vertical posture to begin with. Have an intentional movement forward with your right palm. So kind of reach with the right palm and make sure you're pushing back with the right hip. And then we're going to transfer all of that core energy to the left side and lift ourselves up into a standing position. All of your weight will be on the left leg, no weight on the right leg. And then what you're going to do is push forward and take a step forward like that. Now we're going to get into the core techniques. The core techniques in the Tai Chi Code and the Walking Code are the specific rotations of your upper waist and lower waist combined with the action of the hips, either extension or flexion of one or the other hip. We combine these three elements of core movement in every movement we take when we're standing on two legs, if we're moving with correct movement patterns. Not everybody uses correct movement patterns, so they may not be engaging the upper waist, the lower waist, and the hips correctly or at all. When we practice the Tai Chi movements, we're going to guarantee that we're using the core in the proper sequence and using the proper muscles effectively. So let's look at these core movements. And I'm going to face the camera for this. We're talking about our upper waist, which is going to turn either to the left or to the right. And that's using our upper abdominal muscles on either side. In this case, we're going to be turning forward and around with the right upper abdominal muscles, projecting the right palm forward. Our lower abs move in the opposite direction from the upper abs. So my right lower abs turn back and to the right. my left lower abs turn back and to the left. The lower abs help create root by turning and pressing the heel down into the ground by moving the pelvis back on that side. So when we're using our core waist muscles on the right, the upper waist is turning forward and to the left, and the lower abs are turning back and to the right. And the lower abs also serve to tuck the pelvis under in addition to the rotational element. So from the side view, the lower abs rotate back and to the right and also tuck the pelvis so it's into a neutral position here. And then at the same time, we're using the glutes as the third element to push down against the ground. Those are the three elements of the core in this pushing position at the end of brush knee. When we do the half step up, we're going to change all three elements to the opposite action. This means I'm going to take the upper waist, and instead of turning forward on the right, I'm going to turn forward on the left. And you'll see the arm motion reflect that change. Then we're going to change the lower abs. Instead of turning back on the right, we're going to turn back on the left. This is going to change the root to the left leg and allow the right leg to peel off the ground. To facilitate that, we're going to change the hip extension on the right to hip flexion. So I'm going to pull up on my right hip as I change the root to the left and begin moving forward with the left side of the upper waist. So in this position, we can see that I have my root lower abs on the left, I'm turning forward on the left, and I'm flexing my right hip. That is the core movement position. In the Tai Chi Code, this is the core technique of split. When we shift back, we're going to do the same split in the opposite way. So I'm going to turn the upper waist forward on the right, now turn the lower abs back on the right, and I'm going to flex the left hip, bringing me back to my heel. And then to get into empty stance, I'm going to turn the upper waist all the way to the right. And now I am in empty stance. This is actually the Tai Chi core technique of elbow strike. Upper and lower waist turning away from the flexing hip. And then we're going to place the heel in what is pluck, but we're not going to teach that in this lesson. You can go back to the lessons on Play the Fiddle and see the core technique explanation. So now, instead of doing the full transition to Play the Fiddle, we're going to transition from the half step up to a directly forward walk. From here, we have our core set up the same way I described. We're going to begin the half step up, and we're not going to shift back. We're going to transition from this movement directly into a forward step. We've already got the upper waist engaged in the right direction. We've already got the lower abs engaged in the right direction, rooting my left leg. And now what we have to do is change the hip action from right hip flexion to left hip flexion, and that is going to stand the body up and pull it forward so we get into the swing through of a step. What we'll begin to understand with the core is that when we do a swing through stepping, we're not throwing the leg forward. What is happening is our lower ab rotation is turning the pelvis around this way, and then the counter rotation of the upper waist is keeping the body facing forward. When we think about that paradigm correctly, it should change the way you think about walking, because people who think about throwing the swing leg forward inevitably walk with duck feet, which is not what we want to do. We want to power the swing through with all of the core muscles on the side of the standing leg. That is going to keep your spine properly aligned and allow you to drop your heel with no impact and then shift your weight onto the new foot with proper alignment of the knee and the ankle and the entire spine. Now let's take a look at the transition from the push going directly into a stand. This is going to be perfect for creating proper spinal alignment. And I'll do this from the side view. So we're skipping the half step up and moving directly into the stand-up position. Using the same core movements, we just skipped the half step transition. The core movements for that stand-up are going to be turning the upper waist forward on the side we're standing on, tucking the lower abs on that side, and then flexing the hip on that side. That's what pulls the body into the standing position. In Tai Chi, this is the core technique of press. In the walking code, I call this core technique lift because it is generally associated with a lifting action, because when we do the core movements in that way, it always creates extension of the knee on the same side, which is often related to lifting the body up. But it is the same core movement as press that we would do in grasp the sparrow's tail. I'm flexing the left hip, turning forward with the left upper waist, rooting the left lower abs. That is the core technique of press. It's the same action as stepping forward, and it's the same action as lifting up. When we're moving uphill, we're going to see a very good example differentiating the lift from the push, or in the Tai Chi Code core techniques, press from push. We'll be using the core muscles in the waist on the same side, but the difference is going to be that when we do the lift, we're using the core hip flexors, meaning the iliopsoas on the left. And then when we push, we'll be using the glutes in the back. So here we're doing a push with the core muscles on the right. Now I'm going to do a lift with the core muscles on the left, turning forward with the upper waist, tucking the lower abs, and flexing the hip with the iliopsoas on the left. This brings me into a lifting action or a stand-up action. In the Tai Chi Code, that is press. Now to step forward, we're going to take the hip flexion and change it to hip extension, and now we have push. By practicing this on a slope, it'll be much easier for you to distinguish hip flexion from hip extension. Because when most people walk uphill, they are thinking of trying to push up with the forward leg from this position, which doesn't work, which is why so many people lean forward on a hill to try to push up like that, which is very poor posture and very poor movement mechanics. In order to get up the hill properly, we have to first pull ourselves up, then we can use the glutes to push.